One day in late September 1580, a weather-beaten sailing ship known as the Golden Hinde was approaching the shores of England in the harbor of Plymouth. On its highest deck, watching the shoreline and familiar landmarks coming into view, stood a short, sturdy, barrel-chested man, with a head of crisp curls yellow in the sun, a pointed beard, and a great shining pearl dangling from one ear. This was the captain of the vessel, Francis Drake. After returning from a perilous voyage of almost 3 years, he stood chest out, feet wide apart, in solid satisfaction with himself as the only Englishman who could boast of having weathered the Straits of Magellan and sailed completely around the world. More than that, the hold of the vessel beneath his feet was loaded with Spanish gold enough to make him and the backers of his voyage wealthy for life. It gave him pleasure to think how he had plundered the rich cities of Chile and Peru, and boarded Spanish galleons twice the size of his own ship. No more could these insolent Spaniards feel that the Pacific Ocean was their own private lake, and that all the lands bordering it belonged to them. Not since he, Francis Drake, had sailed that ocean from the tip of South America up along the coast of North America to 48 degrees, and there claimed land for England in the name of Queen Elizabeth. What news he brought her of that land, which he named New Albion, and what treasure for the Queen, if the Queen were still alive. There was a possibility to darken his thoughts. No news had reached him while he was far away. If she were dead, God forbid, and a king friendly to Spain was in her place, there might be a different ending to his story, a hanging plan for him instead of a welcome. He would soon know. The bay was full of fishing boats, several coming cautiously toward him. Laying his short brown fingers on the salty rail, Drake leaned over, shouted to the skipper of the nearest smack, and made himself known. The fisherman looked up dumbfounded at the name of Drake. This was Drake? Still alive, and his ship still afloat? Over a year ago, one of the ships that had started out with him, the only one of 5 ever to come back, had brought word of a blinding white storm over an icy sea in which Drake's ship had disappeared. Yet, by all that was good and holy, here he was, saying his own name and asking after the Queen. "The Queen," repeated Drake. "Is she alive and well?" "Aye, that she be, hearty as ever," shouted the fisherman, collecting his wits. "But," he added, the plague is raging in Plymouth." At that news, Drake decided to drop anchor where he was and remain aboard for the time being. The fisherman, turning his boat about, made for the shore, bursting with the marvelous news that the Golden Hinde was in the harbor. Drake had come back alive. He recalled the first time the town's popular hero had come back with booty from the Spanish Main in '73 on a Sunday, and how everybody had slipped out of church, run down to the wharf, and left the parson preaching to nobody. And here he was back again with another shipload of gold. Spreading excitement as he went, the fisherman sped from the dock, past the taverns, through the market, directly to the mayor, who, alone of all who heard the news, failed to show proper surprise. The fact was that the good mayor of Plymouth had had a secret message from the Queen that Drake was on his way home. The Queen had been told by the Spanish ambassador, who had heard it by the way of ships returning from Mexico to Spain. And the Spaniard was furious. That rascally pirate, he declared, who had attacked ships and stolen gold from His Majesty the King of Spain, had to be caught and hanged. To this the Queen openly agreed, but secretly intended that her valuable little pirate, as she called him, should never get caught. So she had warned the mayor of Plymouth to watch for him at the harbor to which he was most likely to return. The mayor was soon being rowed out over the shining waves with appropriate words of welcome for the hero. With him went a lady who was eager to embrace her adventurous husband and delighted with the beautiful silks and Chinese porcelains he had brought for her collection. For the mayor, Drake had several letters, sealed and ready to be sent by special messenger to London, the first and most important being to the Queen. To this, considering the enormous return on her investment, he anticipated an immediate reply. Answers came from the other letters shortly, but not one word from the Queen. What now? He thought. What was happening at court? Was there a threat of war from the King of Spain? Or was it Lord Burghley, that stuffy old Secretary of the Treasury with his endless caution? Was he demanding that the gold and treasure be returned to Spain? Surely not. Her Majesty had too much at stake for that. Yet for days Drake waited and wondered as his ship lay at anchor behind an island with her treasure stored in the castle of Plymouth for safe keeping.